What is up, ladies and gentlemen, here on M Cubed? Of course, I'm Schmook. All right, so last week I just got back from, of course I'm going to do a disclaimer. It's been busy. Summer's been always wild for me. I just had my buddy's bachelor trip. We went to Panama City Beach. It was fun. It was a good time. I got back last Tuesday, so I wasn't able to really go over the boys episode 4. I wanted to, but Wednesday got a little crazy because Tuesday I got back, right? And then Wednesday was just like making sure I was unpacked, had to get, excuse me, made sure I had to unpack and any other things I had to get done that I wasn't able to because I was gone for like 6 days, something like that. So we're here finally to talk about episodes 4 and 5. And of course, episode 5 came out as well last week. We're going to have episode 6 to go over next CAW, which we'll do probably next Monday. Yeah. But, we still have the boys going on, so it's good to have something comic booky to talk about. I'm excited to talk about it because I actually really enjoyed these last 2 episodes. I thought the first 3 episodes of this season were incredibly lackluster. I hate to say, but it's just the way it was. That's just how it hit me. Because I remember me and my boys, like, we were in this 12-hour car ride, right, to get to PCB, and me and a few of them just stayed up all night just so we can maybe get some rest in the car. I did not because it's hard for me to fall. I got a little bit of sleep, but not much. But before we left, we started watching the boys, but we only got like halfway through episode 4. And but by that point, we had to leave. We had to get on the road. So we had to halt it until we got back, and we watched it later that night. I believe we watched it later that night. So episode 4. What's up, David? Good to have you, pal. Tell your friends if they like the boys, bring them in here. But always good to have you here, bud. I know you're always here, so you're a good man. So we watched episode 4, and that was the episode that made me go, oh, we're back, aren't we? Right? So there's a lot to talk about in this episode. There's clearly the big stuff, right? Where Huey is dealing with his dad who went into a coma due to a stroke. So you think episode 5 is getting back to its best? Episode 5 is awesome. I'll tell you what. But I think episode 4 is where I felt like we're back. But anyway, that's what my buddy Tom said. He thought it was okay. He didn't think episode 4 advanced the story that much, but I think it did a lot. But anyway, Huey finding out that his dad's in like a coma and he's face to face with his mom, and she has power of attorney over Huey Sr., right? Or Hugh. And that to me was crazy. As well as like, okay, well, man, it's good to have Simon Pegg back, but damn, he's in a coma. So it's like we're not even going to get Simon Pegg. But it added a lot to the fact that Huey's still dealing with his abandonment of his mom. Like, he has huge abandonment issues. That's why he doesn't leave people behind. That's why you've seen him go against other people's wishes to try to help Butcher out and stuff like that, right? So, Huey's just a good guy, but again, he has those abandonment issues. So, I'd say that was a pretty big plot point. And then, of course, we have the whole Firecracker and Starlight stuff, right? Where they've been at each other's throats like the whole episode, blah, blah, blah. You have Butcher and Starlight like wanting to blackmail her. Specifically Butcher in that moment where he's like showing her like, okay, I have this this video or the screenshot of you taking it from a 15-year-old, right? So she's technically that's statutory rape, and she's a pedophile, more or less, and it's so that's like huge blackmail. But guess what? she just clicks that button on Butcher's phone. She's like, "You got nothing on me. I don't care." And then she immediately goes up on stage to confront the issue. And she's like, "Please, Lord, guide me," all this stuff, right? And she's like, "This was my past self, and the good thing about the Lord is forgiveness, and I hope you all can forgive me," stuff like that, right? And that was a crazy moment because, like, of course, Starlight's just watching this. Like, how are they forgiving her right now? Like, I thought this would have been like the thing that bring down Firecracker, right? And the crowd just applauds. Like they know that she is found forgiveness in herself and hopefully through the Lord. And of course, it's what Christianity is all about, is forgiveness. Uh, but then she throws something kind of crazy out there that I thought really blew my mind this episode, right? So what really blew my mind in episode 4, which I did not see coming whatsoever, and this was a moment where, besides the Homelander stuff, which we will get to, um, is where Firecracker says how Starlight had an abortion. And Starlight's watching, she is just horrified and pissed and all this stuff, like with this revelation happening, right? Where it's like, okay, is she lying? But clearly this is hitting Starlight pretty close to home, where she did it. Her and Huey did that because it's like they weren't ready, and they knew they weren't ready, so they decided to do that. But of course, this is putting a bad look on Starlight because it's actually something that you want to be under the covers. You don't want this to be out there, out in the open. So that was just crazy to me, crazy. And of course, you get Starlight going to that stage and starts beating the living hell out of Firecracker on live television too. So again, not another good look for Starlight. So she's losing a lot of her fans in that moment, clearly, because she had God as as a form of uh, like that audience was always like a part of her identity a little bit, like the Christian audience. And hearing that she had an abortion, she's definitely going to lose all that support, right? And so Firecracker is definitely taking that reign more so away from Starlight. And of course, she's in the 7 now, and Starlight is not. Another crazy thing, before we get into the Homelander stuff for episode 4, then we'll get into episode 5. Again, I thought episode 4 was brilliant. I felt like there was like huge plot point. Not a good look, but bet it was satisfying. Oh yeah, man, David. I'm sure Starlight was. She needed to, because that is very personal stuff, and she's just revealing her dirty laundry to the world in that moment. So that was just nuts to me. So again, this episode felt like big plot point, big plot point, big plot point, and it's building up to what the last half of the season is going to be, in my opinion. That's why I really like episode 4. I felt like a lot of these storylines are coming together, and really throwing up just so they can knock it out of the park. So the next thing is how apparently Butcher was confronting Ezekiel, and he just blacked out and woke up with Ezekiel dead. So clearly, we don't know, but Butcher also doesn't really know, but he clearly has some sort of superpowers again, right? There's no way he would be able to take out Ezekiel just as a normal dude. And with him blacking out, like, he probably has like this alter ego now, which is probably this thing that's crawling around inside of him that's just going to shut down his brain and take over and let the V part come out, so he can kick ass, right? But Butcher's not really behind the wheel, so that's really cool to me that he kills Ezekiel without knowing it. But I mean, he's like, well, whatever. And we talk about that a little bit in episode 5, where it's like, I don't care, he's dead, ain't he? Stuff like that. So, so that was big. And then we get the Frenchie stuff telling, what's his name, Simon? I could be wrong there. Just his lover throughout this season. He tells him how like he was the prime reason for his family's death, right? So Frenchie was finally able to get all this stuff off his chest that he felt super guilty about while he continues to sleep with this guy, which is clearly not a good look. Like especially if you're holding something that big from someone that you're romantically involved with is crazy. So of course he was feeling this immense guilt, and he had to come clean. He comes clean. They fight a little bit. The dude kicks his ass. I believe his name's Simon, but I'm not going to keep saying it because I'm not 100% sure what his name is. Beats his ass, and he's just like, get out of here. I don't want to see you ever again type of stuff, right? So yeah, that was for all things considered, those were the main plot points of episode 4, which is all great on its own, right? Like it's a lot of excuse me, a lot of jaw drops from that stuff alone. And then we get the Homelander stuff, where how we see episode 3 ending is how it's how Homelander is like kind of talking to himself a little bit. And we've seen a little bit of that before in the past, but like this dude's completely losing his marbles, you know? So he goes, excuse me, I'll take a drink. So he goes to his birthplace, I guess, just the place where he grew up, more or less, which was like a lab facility, right? With a bunch of different doctors who did all types probably of different experiments on Homelander, as well as raised him. Okay. Now this was nutty. Because it just shows Homelander just trying to be like friendly towards all of them, brings them like a cake or something. And then he starts talking to this one dude. It's like, oh, do you remember this room where you used to, you burned me? See if I could withstand it. And he's just like, it hurt when he was talking to this one guy. And I think you laughed. You thought it was funny to see this kid in pain. And I'm like, oh shit, Homelander is losing it. So he throws the guy in there and burns him alive. And he's just laughing the whole time. And it's like, holy fuck. So far this season, Homelander and Butcher and Huey, I'll throw Huey in that mix, have been by far and away my favorite characters, without a doubt, this season. Because I think they've been arguably probably my favorite characters throughout the whole show. I also really love Mother's Milk throughout the whole show. But I'd say those three are like the characters of the boys, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, Mother's Milk, Frenchie, Kimiko, Starlight, they're all huge characters, don't get me wrong. But I do think these are like the three main POVs. And it's good to see them get a lot of the limelight. Like they're the ones in front, like they're front and center this season. It's awesome. But this Homelander stuff is just what's blowing me away, because it's just like he is fully going psycho. And then he gets to this other guy within this lab where he's like, you remember when you caught me, pleasuring myself, and you just like kind of laughed a little bit and called me, what was your nickname for me? And the guy's just like, I don't know. He's like, you called me Squirt. You get it? And it's like, holy shit, dude. Homelander's going bonkers. And he's like, all right, I want you to take down your pants and start jerking that thing until you come. And then we'll make you squirt. That's what we'll call you. And then he just goes through this whole thing. It's like, okay, if you don't ejaculate and like I'm going to give you a little bit of time. If you don't, then you're dead. I'm going to kill you. And this guy clearly can't do it because he has like 10 plus people watching him do this. And he's clearly not aroused because he's getting threatened that he's going to get killed. And so he can't do it. And then Homelander just immediately, and that was crazy. And of course, Homelander like basically wipes out the rest of these people. And like these shots of him as he's leaving, like from behind the back, there's blood on his cape. He gets in this elevator, he smiles, and there's blood all over his face. I'm just like, Homelander is probably one of the best villains of all time now, after that moment for me. And it's just one of the best performances for TV I've seen in a long time from Anthony Starr. It's quite remarkable. Um, again, I love that episode. I thought episode 4 was quite brilliant. So now let's go on to episode 5. Because I thought the Homelander stuff was clearly the best stuff from episode 4. I think everything else was very good. Now episode 5. Now you, Dave, I know David's in here. If anyone else is in here, say hey in the chat. Let me know what your thoughts were on episode 4 as a whole. But David says that he thinks episode 5 is where it's getting back to how the boys should be, like to its peak, its best. And I liked the episode a lot. I do think I liked 4 more. But no matter what, there's at least the second best episode of the season. Yeah, no, I'm with you, David. That's yeah. Anyway, uh, so I liked episode 5 quite a bit. Like I liked how, of course, Giancarlo coming back and just completely owning the episode. Like he's always been a good presence in the boys, but I never felt he was like his peak, because I've seen this guy in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, and I'm like, he's one of the best actors working. Uh, I'm like, he owned this episode. He was sick. And I like how the boys go in like with a party and be like, okay, you're out of this prison if you help us find this apparent virus that kills soups. Which I thought was it's definitely a MacGuffin of this season now, apparently, that kind of came out of the blue. Whatever. But what comes after is pretty sick. Like, obviously, Vicky knows that he's out, that Edgar's out of jail. But she's going to help them try to find this virus stuff. And of course, Butcher promises Edgar that once we take out Newman, you'll get full custody of her daughter, because he's pissed that she injected her with V, because now she's a soup. They get to this farm, try to find, like, obviously a lot of testing's being done here on animals with compound V. And as David said, this brings some crazy action. Like the flying sheep, the bulletproof chicken, how like it can just like run right through someone, and I'm like, holy smokes! This was a very gory episode too. Like obviously the last one was pretty gory based on Homelander, but this one was pretty nuts because you have that the stuff with the chicken just running through somewhere, and then you have all the stuff with Hugh. Oh, I guess that's the part of episode 4 that I forgot to mention, is that Huey injected Huey Senior with V, with compound V, and I'm like, that blew my mind too. I'm like, oh man, this is like the cherry on top of the episode, that his dad's gonna wake up and have superpowers. So that's the part of this episode that I thought really made the episode. I thought the rest of it was pretty solid. But ultimately, I thought the stuff with Huey's dad and Huey's mom was the best part of the episode. Because again, I liked all this stuff at this farm with all this like compound testing, blah blah blah. But how did the virus spread in the dead body? How did the virus spread in the dead body? No heartbeat, can't pump the blood around the body. That's a good question. I mean, the virus. Are you talking about Huey's dad? Because that was just compound V, and he wasn't dead yet. Unless I'm blanking on the virus in the dead body. I could be completely blanking, so that's on me. If you could remind me what you're talking about a little bit more. Anyway, when Huey's dad just like he's fine, he's acting perfectly normal, like he feels great, and he's just talking to Huey's mom and Huey about whatever, like how they went on this trip, and it was terrible, but he would love to go back. It was great. But it gets to this point where Huey's dad's no longer in his bed, and they go around the hospital looking for him, and he's just standing there. Oh, no body in the shed that the sheep ate. I got you, David. I got you. That's a good question. That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there might be something we figure out next episode. Anyway, but you come across Huey's dad, and he's just standing there and he's confused. Like he's talking about Huey. Huey's talking to him, and he doesn't recognize Huey. He's like, Huey's 11 years old. You're not Huey. He starts to get pissed, and then he starts getting unbelievably pissed at Huey's mom. Be like, you left, and he's just like, he's laying out all this anger from his past, like our boy needed you and stuff like that. And it's like now this guy's clearly a soup because he had a heart in his hand because there was a patient on the table that he just ripped through. He sees that and he starts like phasing through walls and stuff like that. And then like this was a great moment to me, which I was like, oh shit, was where he's phasing and he like there's this like random guy in a hospital bed talking to a nurse. He's flirting with her. He's like, "What if we get dinner?" Blah blah blah. And Hugh just comes in and just like he stops phasing right on top of the guy and just like just opens up his insides and Hugh Senior just gets stuck inside of this guy. I'm like, this is nuts. Kind of felt like a horror movie a little bit at times too. But then you get to the end and it's like there's like Huey's finally like, my dad needs to be at peace. I tried, but I shouldn't have done this because there was also just a great moment between Hugh and Huey, where Huey's just talking, or Hugh's telling Huey about this like hamster, I believe it was a hamster, where, or no, it was their cat. It was their cat. Saying how it's like, oh, he's in so much pain. He's like he's not eating anything, and he's just like he's still like having BMs, but it's all liquid, right? And Hugh's like, I don't want to put him down. I don't want to put him down. And Hugh just respects that. But then this cat just eventually passes over and has a terrible death. So Hugh to him was like, I don't want that to happen to me. Huey has too much faith. It has problem letting go, which again I believe has to do with his mother leaving. Is that abandonment issue thing? He does not want to say goodbye to this cat. In turn, how he does not want to say goodbye to his father, who's going to be gone forever. Just like how he thought his mom was, even though she was still out there. It's that abandonment issue part, right? But after hearing the story, he was just like, all right, Dad, you can go. And they decided to pull the plug, and then he's gone. Very beautiful scene, very beautiful moment. Ultimately, this episode was great. I think, again, I liked 4 more, but we're finally on track because I do feel like no matter what the first 2 episodes I was very underwhelmed by, I liked episode 3 quite a bit, but 4 and 5 I believe have been great episodes. Okay, now I guess the question is, what's next? What's next? And the next episode comes out on the 4th of July, which could be pretty sick. There could be a lot of stuff going on with like the president and Newman. Why doesn't Butcher and Negan's character Joe, who's played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, take sample from dead body with virus in it? That's fair. No, you're right. Well, like it could be considered a plot hole, but there might be a certain reason why they have to kidnap the guy. I don't know. I did not write the show, David. I wish I did, but I don't know. It'll probably be one of those things that gets answered in the next episode or two. No matter what, they have to start to wrap this stuff up. But I'm ultimately hoping that by the end of this season, we see Soldier Boy, and maybe the virus stems from his blood. Now that he has that one ability that can take away superpowers, so maybe that's where the virus stems from, is from Soldier Boy. But we will have to wait and see. All right, guys, I think I am going to call it there. I think this was a pretty solid stream. I hope that these next few episodes really land. Because, I mean, again, I think they're doing great. They're finally back on track, in my opinion. And, yeah, I look forward to these last 3 episodes. And make sure to tune in later tonight, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, which is my time. So do that accordingly to how your guys' time zone is. But we're gonna me and Harris and maybe some others gonna be discussing the newest episode of The Acolyte, which will come out later tonight. This is going to be my first time on the stream for the Acolyte because I've been unbelievably busy or I've been sick as shit. So I've not been able to get on. And I'd like to finally be able to talk a little bit about this show. I don't like it that much, but I'm going to speak my mind. And yeah, I'm excited. So make sure to tune in later, guys. But yeah, it's been fun. David, always good having you here. You're always awesome to have in the chat. You ask good questions. And of course, you're a fan. All right, guys, I will catch you later. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave your comments down below on what your favorite episode of this season is so far. Hit that notification bell so you can get updated on when we go live. And I will catch y'all very soon. Bye-bye.